Neo once woke up in a world that was fake, a prison made of code, lies, and machines pretending to be reality. He escaped it. But what happens when the man who broke the Matrix wakes up in a future that isn't lying? A world where the system doesn't hide, where the cage is visible, and everyone knows it's there. Night City isn't an illusion. It's a contract. Corporations don't control minds. They own choices. People aren't asleep. They're exhausted. And freedom isn't stolen. It's priced. Neo can't see the code here. He can't bend reality. He bleeds when he's shot, but he still remembers one thing. Systems only work if people believe they're inevitable. So what happens when the man who shattered one false world walks into a future that dares him to try again? No red pill, no reset button, no escape, just Neo versus a city that profits from despair. There is no safe system. Neo hit the pavement hard. Concrete slammed into his shoulder, knocking the breath out of him as rain poured down in sheets thick enough to blur the neon skyline above. His vision swam. His ears rang. Somewhere nearby, engines screamed and gunfire cracked sharp and close. This was not the Matrix. Pain confirmed it instantly. Neo rolled as a burst of automatic fire shredded the ground where his head had been a second earlier. Concrete exploded into dust and fragments. He scrambled behind an overturned AV, heart pounding, blood already soaking through his sleeve. "Okay," he muttered through clenched teeth. "That's new." A combat drone hovered above the street, optics glowing red as it scanned for movement. Two Corpo security troopers advanced behind it, rifles raised, boots splashing through puddles glowing with holographic ads. "Target confirmed," one of them said. "Unregistered individual, non-augmented." Neo peeked around the vehicle and froze. There was no green code, no glowing lattice beneath reality, no cheat layer, just guns. The drone opened fire. Neo sprinted. Bullets tore through the air, punching holes through metal and pavement. Neo vaulted a barrier, slid across wet concrete, and leapt onto a moving car, barely keeping his balance as it screamed down the street. The driver screamed too. Neo jumped again, rolling as the car slammed into a barricade behind him in a fireball of sparks and broken glass. He didn't slow. He couldn't. Night City didn't pause for confusion. Neo ducked into an alley as another drone descended, rotors whining. It fired point blank. Neo twisted sideways, felt heat tear across his ribs, and slammed his palm into the drone's chassis as it passed. Metal buckled. The drone spiraled out of control and detonated against a wall in a shower of sparks. Neo staggered back, gasping. He stared at his hands. They were shaking. "I used to stop bullets," he whispered. This world didn't care. Sirens wailed. Not police, not rescue. Corporate response. Heavier, faster. Neo took off again. He vaulted fences, kicked open doors, burst through a crowded underground market as vendors screamed and scattered. Someone shoved a gun into his chest mid-run. Neo disarmed them in a blur of motion, instinct taking over. Bone, leverage, momentum. The man hit the ground unconscious before he understood what happened. Neo didn't look back. A Netrunner's attack hit him mid-stride. His vision flickered, static crawling across his perception as an intrusive signal tried to hijack his nervous system. Neo screamed and forced it out. Not with code, with will. The signal collapsed. The Netrunner on a nearby rooftop slumped forward, smoke curling from their neural rig. Neo crashed through a door and slammed it shut behind him. The door exploded inward. Seconds later, he burst into a bar. Music died. Guns came up instantly. Neo raised his hands, blood dripping onto the floor. "Not here to rob anyone," he said quickly. "Just running from people who really want me dead." A woman at the bar laughed. "Yeah? Get in line." The wall behind Neo exploded as a heavy trooper smashed through. rifle roaring. Neo dove. The bar became a war zone. Neo disarmed one attacker, used their body as cover, ripped a second weapon free, and fired, not to kill, but to disable. Knees shattered. Weapons clattered to the floor. A heavy combat Borg charged him. Neo jumped. He landed on the Borg's shoulders, drove both thumbs into exposed sensor ports, and wrenched hard. The Borg screamed as system failed and collapsed in a shower of sparks. Silence fell. Bodies lay groaning. The Borg twitched uselessly. Neo stood breathing hard, bloodied, alive. Every eye in the bar stared at him. The woman from the bar slowly raised her drink. "Well," she said, "you're definitely not local." Minutes later, they were on the roof, rain hammering down as drones searched nearby streets. "You're not augmented," the woman said, scanning him with disbelief. "No chrome, no system ID. How are you still alive?" Neo flexed his injured hand. "I refuse to accept the rules," she snorted. "That will get you killed." "It hasn't yet." "That's worse." A drone spotted them. Neo didn't hesitate. He sprinted, leapt off the roof, grabbed a hanging cable, and swung through open air as gunfire lit the night. He crashed through a hoload, shattered glass raining around him, and landed rolling in the street below. The woman swore and followed. They vanished into the city as Netwatch systems flared to life. Deep in Night City's networks, alarms triggered. Anomaly confirmed subject. Exhibits non-augmented combat capability, resists neural intrusion, classification updated. Threat type, system disruptor. Neo leaned against a wall in the rain, bleeding, shaking, laughing quietly to himself. "This isn't the Matrix," he said. No, it was worse, because here, the system didn't lie. It told you exactly how trapped you were. And Neo had just punched it in the face. You can't unplug from Night City. Neo didn't get a breather. Night City didn't allow recovery time. Not for the wounded, not for the confused, and definitely not for anomalies. The moment the gunfire stopped in the bar, the city began closing its grip. Drones flooded the sky. Neo burst out a side exit as the front of the building collapsed inward under heavy fire. Neon glass rained down behind him. He hit the street running, boots splashing through oily puddles as tracer rounds stitched the pavement at his heels. "Move!" someone screamed as he barreled through a street market. Neo vaulted a vendor stall, slid under a collapsing awning, and yanked a stunned civilian out of the way just before a drone's cannon chewed the ground where they'd been standing. The drone adjusted instantly. Too fast. Neo grabbed a fallen metal pole and hurled it with everything he had. It punched through the drone's sensor cluster, sending it spiraling into a building in a fireball that lit the street like daylight. The crowd scattered. Neo didn't stop. He ducked into a service tunnel, slammed through a door, and descended 2 steps at a time into darkness. The second the door closed, the air changed, thick with static, buzzing faintly against his skin. Bad feeling. His vision flickered. Neo staggered as invisible pressure slammed into his skull. Pain exploded behind his eyes. He dropped to one knee, teeth clenched, hands shaking. A Netrunner attack, not brute force, surgical. His muscles locked for a split second, long enough. A figure dropped from the ceiling, chrome-laced Mercenary, reflex boosters glowing faintly. Monowire snapped toward Neo's throat. Neo twisted just in time, the wire slicing fabric instead of flesh. He rolled, came up hard, and slammed his elbow into the Merc's ribs. The Merc didn't even grunt. Neo barely blocked the counterpunch. His arm screamed as reinforced knuckles crushed into bone. He stumbled back as the Merc advanced, movements impossibly smooth, predictive. "You're fast," the Merc said calmly. "But you're naked." Neo wiped blood from his mouth. "Story of my life." The Merc lunged. Neo ducked low, swept the Merc's legs, and followed up with a vicious strike to the knee joint. The Merc faltered, but didn't fall. Chrome compensated. The Merc grabbed Neo by the coat and slammed him into the wall hard enough to crack concrete. Neo gasped as the air left his lungs. A blade extended from the Merc's wrist. Neo jammed both hands into the Merc's arm, twisted, and forced the blade past his own face by millimeters. With a roar of effort, he drove his head forward. The Merc's optics shattered. Neo didn't hesitate. He wrenched the Merc's arm sideways until something snapped, then slammed the Merc's skull into the wall again and again until the body went limp. Neo staggered back, breathing hard. That should have killed him, but Night City didn't care about should. The tunnel lights flickered. Footsteps echoed. More coming. Neo ran. By the time he reached the surface again, the city had adapted. Barricades snapped into place. Vehicles rerouted automatically to box him in. Drones coordinated in packs now, herding instead of chasing. They were learning. Neo sprinted across a bridge as gunships roared overhead. He dove as missiles obliterated the roadway behind him, asphalt peeling upward like paper. The shockwave hurled him forward. He rolled to the edge and nearly went over. A hand grabbed him, human, shaking, strong. "Don't die yet," a woman snarled, hauling him back. She shoved him behind a burning vehicle as gunfire shredded the air. "I told you they'd come harder," she said. Neo recognized her, the fixer from the bar. "You always run with this much enthusiasm?" he asked between breaths. She fired back at advancing enforcers. "Only when something expensive breaks." A heavy combat unit advanced through the smoke, armor glowing red hot from impacts that barely slowed it. Neo stood. "Stay down," she snapped. Neo ignored her. He charged. Bullets tore into him. Real bullets, real pain, but he didn't slow. He slid under the unit's first strike, planted his foot against its knee, and drove upward with everything he had. The joint shattered. The unit roared and toppled. Neo climbed it like a collapsing building, slammed both fists into its helmet, and ripped the faceplate free. Sparks erupted. He shoved the exposed head into the ground and kept hitting until the machine stopped moving. Neo fell back onto the pavement, chest heaving, blood soaking his coat. The fixer stared. "You should be dead," she said. Neo laughed weakly. "Working on it." Sirens screamed louder now. Netwatch. This wasn't corporate cleanup anymore. This was containment. Neo felt it before he saw it. Pressure in the air, a low-frequency hum crawling through his bones. His vision distorted as a citywide signal pulsed outward, trying to grab hold of his nervous system. He screamed. The world warped. Neo dropped to one knee, hands clawing at the ground as his body tried to shut down. This wasn't brute force. This was exclusion. The system rejecting something that didn't belong. "Hey!" the fixer shouted, dragging him behind cover. "Fight it!" "I am," Neo gasped. He forced himself upright inch by inch, every muscle screaming. He focused, not on code, not on systems, on choice. The signal faltered. Just enough. Neo stood. The hum died abruptly. Somewhere, a Netwatch operator swore. The city paused. Not long, but long enough. Neo looked out over the street, burning, shattered, alive. "This place doesn't want to be free," he said quietly. The fixer reloaded. "Doesn't matter. You already made it angry." Neo straightened, pain rippling through him. "Good," he said, because now they were done pretending. And Night City had just learned something it couldn't forget. You don't need an off switch to break a system. Sometimes all it takes is someone who refuses to stop fighting it. The system sends its best. Night City stopped improvising. That was when it became truly dangerous. Neo felt the shift the moment he stepped onto the street again. The city's noise didn't fade, but it sharpened. Gunfire became measured. Drone movement synchronized. Traffic rerouted with military precision. This wasn't panic anymore. This was a hunt. "Yeah," Neo muttered, rolling his shoulders despite the pain. "That's more like it." The first kill team hit him in Watson. 4 mercenaries dropped from opposite rooftops, landing in perfect formation. No wasted motion, no words. Their chrome glinted under neon lights as predictive overlays synced between them. One rushed him head on. Neo ducked as a blade carved the air where his head had been. He slammed his elbow into the attacker's throat, but reinforced cartilage barely budged. The merc countered instantly, knee driving into Neo's ribs hard enough to crack something. Neo staggered back as the other 3 closed in. He grabbed a loose pipe from the ground and swung. The pipe shattered against a reinforced forearm. Bad choice. Neo dove as gunfire erupted, bullets ripping through the alley walls. He rolled, came up behind one merc, and wrapped an arm around their neck. The merc stabbed backward without hesitation. Neo twisted, felt the blade slice into his side, and drove his knee into the merc's spine. Something snapped, the body went limp. 3 left. A grenade clattered across the pavement. Neo kicked it back without thinking. The explosion hurled 2 mercs into opposite walls, armor sparking violently. Neo sprinted straight at the 4th as the smoke bloomed, tackling them through a storefront window. Glass exploded. They hit the floor hard. The merc recovered faster, chrome-enhanced reflexes kicking in. They grabbed Neo's throat and lifted him one-handed, slamming him into a pillar. "You don't belong," the merc said flatly. Neo gasped, hands clawing at the grip. "Funny," he choked. "They said that last time, too." He jammed his thumbs into the merc's eye ports and pushed. The merc screamed. Neo dropped, seized the merc's weapon, and fired point blank into their knee joints. The merc collapsed. Neo didn't wait. He ran again. The city adjusted. Snipers opened fire from blocks away. Neo felt the future tilt and dove, just as a round punched through the space his head had occupied. He rolled behind cover as another shot cratered the street. Neo sprinted across an open plaza under fire, vaulting wreckage as bullets chased him. A sniper round clipped his leg, spinning him hard. He slid to a stop behind a statue and gritted his teeth as pain exploded up his thigh. "Stay down," a voice crackled over loudspeakers. "This ends clean," Neo laughed despite himself. "Does it ever?" He tore the bullet free and forced himself upright. Bad idea. The sniper fired again. Neo jumped, pure instinct, and the round punched through the statue instead. He sprinted toward the sniper's perch, ignoring the screaming in his leg. He climbed. Hands bled, muscles burned. Another shot grazed his shoulder. Neo reached the rooftop and tackled the sniper before they could reload. They rolled dangerously close to the edge. The sniper tried to disengage. Neo didn't let them. He slammed the sniper into the ground, disarmed them, and kicked the rifle off the roof. The sniper stared up at him, breathing hard. "They'll keep coming," they said. "You can't win." Neo stepped back. "I don't have to." He shoved the sniper away, not off the roof. The sniper hesitated, stunned. Neo was already gone. Netwatch escalated. Elite response units deployed. Augmented beyond legality. Neural firewalls hardened. Emotion suppressed. These weren't mercs. They were erasers. Neo felt their presence like a pressure wave. They cornered him in a transit hub. 5 of them, moving as one, weapons humming with lethal intent. The space locked down automatically. Exit sealed. "No running now," one said. Neo exhaled slowly. "Good." They attacked together. Neo moved. He slid under a barrage of fire, sprang up behind one unit, and slammed their head into a pillar. The unit recovered instantly and countered with a blade that sliced clean through Neo's coat and into flesh. Neo grunted and grabbed the blade with both hands, ignoring the pain. He twisted hard. The blade snapped. Neo headbutted the unit and drove them backward into another attacker, sending both crashing into a wall. The remaining 3 opened fire. Neo dove behind a column as it disintegrated under sustained fire. Debris rained down. The floor shook. Neo launched himself through the smoke, tackling one unit mid-reload. They slammed into the ground. Neo grabbed their weapon and unloaded into the legs of the others. One fell. Another kept coming. The last one grabbed Neo and threw him across the hub like a rag doll. Neo hit hard, skidding across the floor. He barely stood in time to block a killing blow. They grappled, strength against will. The unit's grip tightened. Neo screamed and pushed back, not with strength, with refusal. He drove his forehead into the unit's helmet and kept going until the helmet cracked, sparks pouring out. The unit collapsed. Silence fell. Neo dropped to one knee, chest heaving, blood pooling beneath him. The transit hub burned. Sirens wailed again. More incoming. Neo forced himself up, staggering. The fixer appeared from the smoke, weapon raised. "You're insane," she said. Neo wiped blood from his mouth. "You noticed." She looked at the ruined hub. "They're escalating, hard." Neo nodded. "Good." She stared at him like he was already dead. "They're not trying to stop you anymore," she said. "They're trying to make an example." Neo looked out at the burning city. "Then let them watch." Deep in Night City's core systems, threat classification updated again. Subject, Neo status, active disruption. Event response, total suppression. Night City had stopped asking questions. It had chosen force. Neo cracked his neck and stepped back into the street, limping, bleeding, unbroken. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's see what you've got left." No more containment. Night City stopped pretending it could isolate the problem. Containment had failed. Targeted suppression had failed. Elite response units lay broken across half a district. So the city did what it always did when control slipped. It escalated indiscriminately. The sky changed first. Neo noticed it while limping through a service corridor. Blood dripping steadily from his coat. The constant neon haze dimmed, replaced by sweeping searchlights cutting through the clouds. Gunships moved into visible formation, no longer hiding behind corporate deniability. This wasn't a cleanup. This was a message. A Netwatch broadcast crackled through every unsecured channel simultaneously. The voice, calm, precise, utterly inhuman. Unregistered anomaly designated hostile. Citywide suppression authorized. Civilians advised to comply. Neo laughed softly. Too late for that. The corridor exploded. A breaching charge tore the wall apart, hurling Neo across the floor in a storm of fire and concrete. He rolled instinctively, came up coughing, ears ringing, vision blurred. 3 figures stepped through the smoke. Netwatch hunters. No insignia, no branding. Black armor layered with adaptive plating, faces hidden behind smooth masks. They moved without urgency, weapons lowered, but ready. "You are not compatible with this system," one of them said. Neo wiped blood from his eyes and forced himself upright. "I keep hearing that." They attacked as one. Neo barely blocked the first strike. A shock baton slammed into his forearm, electricity ripping through muscle and bone. He screamed but stayed on his feet, twisting and driving his elbow into the attacker's neck joint. The armor absorbed most of it. The second hunter fired a concussive round that detonated at Neo's feet, launching him into the air. He hit the ceiling hard and crashed back down, gasping as the world spun. Before he could recover, a boot came down on his chest. Cracked ribs screamed. Neo grabbed the leg, twisted, and pulled with everything he had. The hunter stumbled just enough. Neo rolled, seized a fallen weapon, and fired blindly. One hunter dropped, armor smoking. The others adapted instantly. They spread out. Predictive fire tore into the corridor, shredding walls, ceiling, floor. Neo sprinted through the storm, sliding under shots, leaping over debris, barely staying ahead of the kill zone. He slammed through a maintenance hatch and fell 3 stories into darkness. He hit hard. Neo lay there for a second, staring up at flickering emergency lights, chest burning, body screaming for rest. He didn't get it. The hatch above detonated inward. Hunters dropped down after him. Neo rolled, came up behind one, and slammed their head into a generator casing. Sparks erupted. He shoved the body into another hunter and ran. He burst back into the open streets. Night City was on fire, not metaphorically, actual fire. Gunships strafed entire blocks, herding civilians into lockdown zones. Automated turrets unfolded from rooftops. Drones filled the air like a swarm. Neo sprinted through chaos as explosions rocked the streets around him. He vaulted wreckage, ducked under collapsing signage, dragged a screaming civilian out of the line of fire without slowing. A turret locked onto him. Neo hurled himself sideways as the street where he'd been standing vaporized. He rolled behind cover, breathing hard. "You really don't want me here," he muttered. The turret rotated. Neo charged it. Bullets tore into him, ripping fabric and flesh. He didn't stop. He leapt, slammed into the turret housing, and wrapped his arms around it. With a scream of pure effort, he ripped it free from its mount and hurled it into a nearby building. The explosion rocked the block. Neo collapsed to one knee, vision swimming. He pushed himself up again. The city responded immediately. Aerial drones descended, boxing him in from above, while ground units closed fast. Neo was bleeding too much now. His movement slowed. His breathing came ragged. For the first time, doubt crept in. Not fear, calculation. I can't win this. The realization hit hard. And then, the streets erupted with gunfire that was aimed at him. Mercenaries opened fire on Netwatch units from side alleys. Civilians hurled debris from rooftops. A truck plowed into a hunter squad, sending armored bodies flying. Neo stared in disbelief. The fixer appeared beside him, firing wildly. "Told you," she yelled. "You make things messy." Neo laughed, raw, incredulous. "Why help me?" She slammed a new mag home. "Because you made them show their hand." The fight exploded outward. Night City turned on itself. Netwatch units were suddenly fighting everyone. Drones fell from the sky under hacked signals. Turrets turned and tore into their own support units. Neo moved again, not running now, but advancing. He fought alongside people who had never fought for anything but survival before. Together, they pushed back, block by block. Neo tackled a hunter and slammed them through a storefront window. He ripped their weapon free and fired into a gunship's exposed intake. The gunship spiraled into the street in a ball of fire. The shockwave knocked Neo off his feet. He lay there, staring up at the burning sky. For a moment, Night City hesitated. Just a moment. Netwatch made its final decision. A citywide neural suppression pulse began charging, designed not to kill, but to disable, to shut down independent thought, to end resistance in seconds. Neo felt it building. Pressure, static, the sense of something massive about to close. He forced himself to his feet. "No," he whispered. He didn't look for code. He didn't look for control. He stood in the open street, bloodied and shaking, and refused to kneel. The pulse fired. Neo screamed. The world fractured. And then it stalled, not stopped. Stalled, just long enough. Somewhere deep in the system, something hesitated. A fraction of a second. That was all Neo needed. When the pulse faded, Night City was still standing. So was Neo. Barely. He collapsed to one knee, chest heaving, eyes burning. The city stared back at him through smoke and fire. Netwatch retreated, not defeated, but shaken. Neo stood there, surrounded by ruins and people who had chosen to fight back, and understood the truth fully now. This wasn't the Matrix. There was no switch to flip, no prison to unplug from. This was worse. This was a system built by choice. And now, it knew it could bleed. Neo straightened, pain screaming through every nerve. "All right," he said quietly to the burning city. "Your move. The cost of resistance." Night City didn't forgive. It adapted. The fire still burned, smoke clawing at the sky as Neo staggered through the aftermath of the uprising. Bodies littered the streets, some armored, some not. Drones smoldered in the gutters. Neon signs flickered erratically, struggling to stay alive. For a moment, just one, the city looked wounded. Then it clenched its teeth. The counterstrike came without warning. A Netwatch strike drone punched through the clouds and detonated above the district, releasing a shockwave of electromagnetic force. Every hacked turret went dead instantly. Every hijacked drone fell from the sky like a corpse. The street went quiet. Too quiet. Neo felt it in his bones. "Get down!" he shouted. Too late. Armored transports roared in from every direction, disgorging squads of corporate suppression units. These weren't hunters. These were executioners. They didn't advance cautiously. They charged. Gunfire tore through the street. Neo moved on instinct, tackling a civilian out of the line of fire as rounds shredded the wall behind them. He rolled, came up firing a salvaged weapon, dropping one unit before the gun jammed. He threw it aside and ran. A suppression unit slammed into him from the side, driving him through a storefront window. Glass exploded inward as they crashed into the darkness. Neo barely blocked the first blow. Reinforced fists hammered into his ribs, his jaw, his stomach. Pain blurred his vision. The unit grabbed him by the throat and lifted him. "You inspired disorder," it said flatly. Neo spat blood. "Worth it." He jammed his thumbs into a seam in the unit's helmet and ripped. The helmet tore loose with a shower of sparks. Neo slammed his head forward and felt something give. The unit dropped. Neo didn't stop moving. Outside, the fixer was pinned behind a barricade, firing until her weapon clicked empty. "Neo!" she yelled. A missile slammed into the barricade, flipping it end over end. She hit the ground hard and didn't move. Neo screamed and charged. Bullets tore into him, leg, shoulder, side, but he didn't slow. He slammed into the suppression unit mid-reload, drove them into the pavement, and crushed their helmet with both hands. He skidded to the fixer's side. She was breathing, barely. "Don't," she coughed. "Don't be stupid." Neo dragged her behind cover as another transport screamed overhead. "I'm already past that," he said. The city's feeds lit up. Arasaka spokespeople spoke calmly about terrorist disruption. Netwatch rebranded the resistance as a rogue AI event. Faces were plastered across screens. People Neo had fought beside hours earlier. Bounties attached. Dead or erased. Neo watched from the shadows as civilians turned away, fear snapping shut whatever hope had opened earlier. That hurt more than the bullets. They hunted him for hours. Neo ran, fought, hid, fought again. He collapsed a stairwell to crush a pursuing squad. He dragged himself through sewer tunnels under gunfire. He ripped open a drone and used its battery to overload a security gate mid-chase. Every victory cost him. Blood soaked his coat. His vision doubled. His breathing rasped wetly now. He couldn't keep this up, and Night City knew it. They set the trap in an old transit station. The fixer realized it first. "This is too easy," she whispered, as they staggered into the cavernous space. Neo barely had time to nod before the light snapped on. Netwatch command units emerged from every entrance. Weapons trained, escape routes sealed. Heavy units took firing positions above, and standing at the center, a single figure, tall, calm, unarmed. "You've made your point," the figure said. "Now it ends." Neo wiped blood from his eyes and forced himself upright. "You're not here to kill me," he said. "No," the figure replied. "I'm here to make an example." The fight was brutal, not flashy, efficient. The command units moved like machines that had studied Neo's every motion. Every dodge was anticipated, every counter blocked. Neo was slammed into pillars, thrown across the platform, beaten down again and again. He kept getting back up, until he couldn't. Neo collapsed to his knees, vision dimming, body trembling. The figure approached. "You proved something dangerous," it said. "That resistance is possible." Neo laughed weakly. "You're welcome." The figure crouched. "But possibility must be punished." A weapon powered up. The fixer screamed and opened fire. She didn't make it 3 steps. Neo roared and surged forward, tackling the figure as the shot went wide. They slammed into the ground, grappling. The figure was stronger, faster. Neo felt his strength give out. The figure raised the weapon again and hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Neo saw it and used it. He drove his forehead into the figure's face and kept hitting until the weapon discharged harmlessly into the ceiling. He wrenched it free and fired point blank. The figure dropped. Silence fell. Neo stood swaying, surrounded by stunned Netwatch units. No one fired. Not yet. The fixer dragged herself to her feet, bleeding but alive. Neo looked around at them. "You can kill me," he said hoarsely, "but you can't undo what happened." Weapons trembled. Orders didn't come. Somewhere, a system waited for confirmation that never arrived. Neo smiled faintly, then collapsed. He woke hours later in the ruins of a building that hadn't collapsed. The fixer sat nearby, bandaged and furious. "You're an idiot," she said. Neo groaned. Consistent. "They're backing off," she continued. "Not because they're scared. Because this got expensive." Neo closed his eyes. "Did it matter?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Then, "People saw them bleed." Neo nodded. That was enough. Outside, Night City rebuilt itself, as it always did. But something had cracked. People remembered. And systems hated memory. Neo stared up at the broken ceiling, breathing shallow but steady. "This is where it gets worse," he said. The fixer smirked painfully. "Yeah," she replied. "Welcome to consequences." The system does not forgive. Neo woke up already moving. Not because he was healed, not because he was ready, because Night City never stopped coming. The building shook as something heavy landed on the roof above. Dust rained down from cracked concrete. Neo rolled off the makeshift bed just as the wall exploded inward, showering the room in fire and debris. "Move!" the fixer shouted. Neo didn't ask where. He ran. They burst through the back of the building into a narrow alley as suppression rounds tore through the space they'd occupied seconds earlier. A drone swooped low, guns blazing. Neo grabbed a loose metal grate, leapt, and slammed it into the drone mid-flight. The drone detonated, throwing him forward. He hit the ground hard, pain screaming through every nerve. No time. The city had changed tactics. No more announcements, no more warnings. This wasn't containment. This was erasure. Every camera tracked them now. Every automated system adjusted in real time. Streets sealed ahead of them, forcing them into kill corridors. Vehicles swerved deliberately to block escape routes. The system wasn't chasing Neo. It was hurting him. "They're boxing us in," the fixer said, firing behind them as they sprinted. "Every path leads somewhere bad." Neo grimaced. "Then we picked the least bad one." They skidded into an abandoned transit tunnel, just as gunships strafed the street above, collapsing entrances behind them. The darkness swallowed them instantly. For 3 seconds, there was silence. Then the footsteps started. Suppression units advanced through the tunnel in perfect formation, weapons raised, optics glowing faintly in the dark. Neo felt his body scream in protest as he braced himself. He charged anyway. He slammed into the first unit, wrenching their weapons sideways and using the body as a shield as the others opened fire. Rounds punched into armor, inches from his face. Neo shoved the body forward, tackled a second unit, and drove them into the wall hard enough to crack stone. The fixer fired from behind him, dropping another. A heavy unit surged forward and grabbed Neo mid-strike, lifting him off the ground. The unit smashed him into the ceiling. Neo blacked out for a split second. When he came back, he was already falling. He hit the ground, rolled, came up, and drove both hands into the heavy unit's chest plate. He pushed, not with strength, but with everything he had left. The armor buckled, the unit collapsed. Neo fell to one knee, breathing ragged. More were coming. They didn't give chase this time. They sealed the tunnel. Explosives collapsed the exits in both directions. Neo stared at the falling rubble, chest heaving. "They're not trying to catch us," he said. The fixer swallowed. "They're burying you." They escaped through maintenance shafts, crawling through tight spaces as the city above reorganized. Neo's hands shook, his vision blurred. Blood loss was catching up fast. When they emerged, they weren't in Night City anymore. They were under it. An old data center cathedral sprawled beneath the streets. Servers like monoliths, cables hanging like veins, the air thick with heat and static. This was legacy infrastructure. Old, unmonitored. For the first time in hours, the city didn't immediately react. Neo leaned against a server rack and slid down to the floor. "I'm running out," he admitted quietly. The fixer looked at him, jaw tight. "They are too." Neo shook his head. "No, they just decided it's cheaper if I disappear completely. Netwatch found them anyway. They always did." The final pursuit came not with soldiers, but with silence. Lights died one by one. Systems powered down. The air pressure shifted. A voice echoed through the data hall, calm, measured, everywhere. "You have destabilized a profitable equilibrium," it said. "Your continued existence increases long-term loss projections." Neo dragged himself to his feet. "So kill me," he said hoarsely. A figure emerged from the darkness, not armored, not augmented, just controlled. "We don't need to," the voice said. "We only need to make you irrelevant." The floor beneath Neo's feet dropped out. He fell, not far, but hard. He landed in a lower chamber as automated systems snapped online around him. Restraint fields shimmered into place. The air thickened, pressing against his lungs. The fixer screamed above him, gunfire erupting. Neo forced himself upright, muscles screaming. The system tightened its grip. "You don't understand," the voice continued. "Resistance only matters if it survives." Neo staggered forward. "Funny," he rasped. "I was thinking the same thing." He reached the control nexus and slammed his fist into it. Nothing happened. The pressure increased. Neo dropped to one knee. For the first time since arriving in Night City, he felt fear, not of dying, of failing. Then the system hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. A feedback loop, a contradiction, an unresolved decision. Neo felt it. He didn't fight the system. He stepped into the hesitation. He stood. The restraint field flickered. Neo slammed his fist into the nexus again. This time, it shattered. The chamber exploded in light and noise as systems failed catastrophically. Restraints collapsed. Power surged unpredictably through the ancient infrastructure. Above him, the fixer laughed through tears as the ceiling gave way. The city screamed. Neo dragged himself out of the wreckage into a city already rewriting the story. Netwatch went dark across multiple sectors. Corporate feeds scrambled. Orders stalled mid-execution. The system hadn't lost, but it had stumbled. Neo stood in the open street, bloodied, exhausted, barely upright, and looked out over Night City one last time. He hadn't freed it. He hadn't saved it. He'd done something worse. He'd proven it could be disrupted. Gunships hovered in the distance, but didn't fire. Not yet. Neo turned to the fixer. "You should disappear," he said. She nodded. "So should you." Neo smiled faintly. "Yeah." He stepped back into the smoke as Night City closed around him once more. Somewhere deep in its core systems, a new variable remained unresolved. Not a virus, not a threat, a memory. And systems hated memory. Legends don't fix systems. Neo vanished the way most dangerous ideas do. Not loudly, not heroically, between updates. Night City searched for him anyway. Drones swept alleys that no longer mattered. Facial recognition systems scanned crowds already trained to look away. Netwatch spun up predictive models that all returned the same error. Subject status. Unresolved. They hated that word. Unresolved meant unfinished. Unfinished meant risk. Neo didn't stop moving. He couldn't. Every step hurt now. His body was running on borrowed time and stubbornness. Ribs bound tight, coat stiff with dried blood. He moved through the city's forgotten arteries. Maintenance tunnels, half-abandoned districts, places where the system's attention thinned just enough to breathe. Not safe, just quieter. That was when the last team found him. No drones, no gunships, people, 6 of them. Augmented, disciplined, calm. Not Netwatch, not corpos. Contractors who specialized in things that didn't officially exist. They stepped into his path beneath a collapsed overpass. Weapons low, but ready. "Neo," one of them said. "We're not here to fight." Neo stopped. "Then you're lost," he replied. The leaders shook their head. "We're here to end a story." They moved. The fight was brutal and fast. No speeches. One rushed him from the left. Neo ducked, drove a knee into the attacker's stomach, felt reinforced plating resist, followed with an elbow that cracked something important. Another came from behind. Neo spun, caught the strike on his forearm, and slammed the attacker into a concrete pillar. Gunfire erupted. Neo rolled, came up firing a salvaged weapon until it clicked empty. He threw it and tackled the nearest figure, both of them crashing to the ground. Pain flared white-hot as a blade cut into his side. Neo roared and headbutted the attacker again and again until the body went limp. He staggered upright. 3 left. The leader advanced slowly. "You can't win this," they said calmly. "You're tired. You're hurt. And even if you kill us, the system remains." Neo wiped blood from his mouth. "I know." He charged anyway. It ended with Neo on his knees, breathing ragged, surrounded by fallen bodies, and one standing figure, the leader, weapon raised, optics steady. "Any last words?" they asked. Neo looked up at the city beyond the overpass. Neon flickering, sirens distant, life continuing, stubborn and ugly. "You're right," he said. "I don't end systems." The leader tightened their grip. Neo smiled faintly. "I start problems." A gunshot rang out, not from the leader's weapon. The leader stiffened, then collapsed forward. Neo looked up as someone lowered a smoking rifle. The fixer. She limped into view, bruised, bleeding, alive out of pure spite. "Told you," she said. "You make things complicated." Neo laughed weakly and nearly passed out. They didn't stay. They couldn't. By dawn, Night City was already rewriting the night's events. Feeds spoke of gang violence, of rogue mercs, of nothing that mattered. Neo disappeared into the sprawl. No body, no confirmation, just absence. Weeks passed. Night City stabilized. Mostly. Contracts resumed. Violence returned to its familiar rhythm. Corporations tightened control, quietly rolling out improvements to prevent future disruptions. But something didn't reset properly. A delay here, a hesitation there. Kill orders required additional authorization. Suppression protocols flagged false positives. Human operators were given just enough time to think, not always, but sometimes. A merc stood in an alley, gun trained on a target who couldn't pay. The merc hesitated. They didn't know why. They walked away. A Netwatch analyst stared at a model that predicted unrest if another full-scale suppression was attempted. They recommended restraint. Their supervisor frowned, then approved it. A fixer rewrote a contract clause to allow an exit option, just in case. No one credited Neo. That was fine. Legends didn't need credit. They needed persistence. Some said Neo was dead. Others swore they saw a man in a long black coat vanish into smoke after stopping a massacre in Pacifica, or cripple a kill team without killing anyone in return, or stand between a turret and a crowd and refuse to move. Stories contradicted each other. That made them harder to erase. Deep in Night City's core systems, an old error log remained. Unfixable, undeletable, a contradiction written not in code, but in outcome. System note: total control produces instability. The system didn't understand it, but it remembered. Neo woke up one morning far from Night City, sunlight filtering through a cracked ceiling. Somewhere quieter, somewhere cheaper. He sat up slowly, every movement reminding him that he was still human, still breakable, still alive. He didn't smile. He didn't regret anything either. Neo pulled on his coat, stepped outside, and blended into a world that would never know his name. That was fine, because somewhere, in a city built on inevitability, someone would hesitate, and that hesitation would spread. Neo never freed Night City. He never could, but he proved something far more dangerous. That systems don't fall when they're destroyed. They fall when people stop believing they're absolute, and once that belief cracks, it never fully heals.